The homeless teen who conquered the whole Rockstar world. Phil Collins, Phil Collins. The name alone resonates through the fabric of music history. A man whose voice could shatter emotional walls and whose drumming could shake stadiums to their core. But what if I told you that Phil Collins wasn't destined for success? That his journey to becoming a global rock star wasn't paved with opportunity, but littered with rejection, hardship, and instability? This is the untold story of how a homeless teen conquered the entire rockstar world. Phil Collins was born on January 30th, 1951, in Chiswick, West London, to a working-class family. His father, Greville Collins, was an insurance agent, and his mother, June Collins, worked as a talent agent. At first glance, one might assume that having a mother involved in the entertainment industry would open doors for young Phil. But that wasn't the case. His family wasn't wealthy, and any connections his mother had didn't automatically translate to opportunities for him. Phil's early years were filled with more challenges than comforts. London in the post-war era wasn't a place of abundance. The city was still recovering from the devastation of World War II, and families like the Collinses had to make do with what little they had. Phil's first exposure to music came when he received a toy drum kit at the age of 5. This wasn't a grand, expensive instrument. It was a simple gift. But to Phil, it was everything. He would spend countless hours banging on those drums, mimicking the sounds of popular records and developing a feel for rhythm that would become his signature in later years. Yet, this passion was often seen as a distraction rather than a potential career path. School wasn't Phil's strong suit. Academic success eluded him, and teachers frequently criticized his lack of focus. But Phil wasn't aimless. He was driven, just not in the way traditional schooling was recognized. His love for music and performance far outweighed his interest in textbooks. This disconnect made him feel alienated and misunderstood, a feeling that would follow him into his teenage years. As Phil entered his teenage years, life became even more unstable. While he wasn't homeless in the sense of living on the streets, he lacked the stability and security that many teenagers take for granted. His relentless pursuit of music and acting led him to bounce between short-term gigs and temporary living situations. He lived in shared accommodations, slept on friends' couches, and moved frequently, all in pursuit of a break that seemed increasingly out of reach. Phil dabbled in acting during these years, appearing in small roles and even as an extra in the Beatles' film A Hard Day's Night, 1964. However, acting didn't fulfill him. The roles were fleeting and the pay was minimal. His heart was in music, but breaking into the industry was proving far more difficult than he had imagined. The London music scene in the 1960s was brutal. Bands came and went, and the competition was fierce. The city was overflowing with talented musicians, all vying for a limited number of opportunities. For every band that made it big, hundreds faded into obscurity. Phil joined several bands during this time, none of which gained any real success. The constant cycle of forming bands, writing music, and then watching everything fall apart was emotionally draining. Yet, Phil refused to quit. In 1970, Phil stumbled upon an opportunity that would change his life forever. The progressive rock band Genesis was looking for a drummer after their original drummer, John Mayhew, left the group. Genesis wasn't famous at the time. They were a small, struggling band trying to find their identity. Phil saw their ad in Melody Maker magazine and decided to audition. The audition process was grueling, but Phil's drumming skills were undeniable. His technical expertise and understanding of complex rhythms impressed the band, and he was offered the position. This wasn't global stardom, but it was a start. As Genesis's drummer, Phil spent years in the background, providing the complex rhythms that defined the band's early progressive rock sound. At that time, Peter Gabriel was the band's frontman, and much of the public's attention was on him. Phil remained in the shadows, honing his craft and learning the ins and outs of the music industry. But fate had something bigger in store. In 1975, Peter Gabriel left Genesis, leaving the band in a state of uncertainty. They auditioned numerous singers to replace Gabriel, but none seemed to fit. Eventually, Phil stepped up to the microphone. Initially hesitant, he eventually became the band's lead vocalist. a decision that would transform Genesis forever. This transition wasn't smooth. Fans were skeptical. Critics doubted the band's future. But Phil's voice carried an emotional depth that surprised everyone. The band's sound evolved from complex progressive rock to more accessible, mainstream music. Albums like A Trick of the Tail, 1976, and Duke, 1980, showcased Phil's versatility and marked a turning point for Genesis. The band's success grew, but Phil wasn't content with being just the frontman of Genesis. He had more to say, more to create. In 1981, Phil launched his solo career with the release of Face Value. The album featured In the Air Tonight, a haunting track born from his personal pain following his divorce. The song's dark, atmospheric sound and explosive drum break became iconic. His solo career exploded. Albums like No Jacket Required, 1985, and But Seriously, 1989, sold millions of copies worldwide. Phil became one of the most successful solo artists of the 1980s. His music crossed genres, blending pop, rock, and soul. Phil wasn't just making music, he was dominating the charts. He won multiple Grammy Awards, sold out arenas, and even starred in films. His soundtrack for Disney's Tarzan 1999 earned him an Academy Award, further cementing his legacy. But with success came personal struggles. Phil's relentless work ethic took a toll on his health and relationships. Multiple divorces, estranged family relationships, and battles with alcoholism plagued him. Years of drumming caused nerve damage, making it nearly impossible for him to play. By the early 2000s, Phil faded from the public eye. His health deteriorated, and he struggled with depression. The man who once dominated the world stage was now fighting just to function. Phil Collins' career wasn't just a product of talent. It was a continuous evolution. From his early days as a progressive rock drummer to the pop-infused hits of the 1980s, Collins was always at the forefront of musical experimentation. What set him apart was not only his drumming skills, but also his ability to adapt to changing musical trends and incorporate them into his sound. In the 1970s, Genesis was at the vanguard of progressive rock, with complex arrangements and intricate melodies. Yet Collins' drumming was never just about keeping time. It was about expressing the soul of the song. His signature drum fills became instantly recognizable, and his emotional intensity added depth to the music. His early days with Genesis are a testament to his technical skill. But as the years passed, Collins' ability to balance technical proficiency with raw emotion became one of his greatest assets. When Phil ventured into his solo career, his musical evolution took an even more dramatic turn. Face Value, his 1981 debut, was starkly different from anything he had done with Genesis. It was a deeply personal album, reflecting his emotional turmoil after his divorce. Songs like In the Air Tonight took on a haunting, atmospheric quality, and the song's drum break, one of the most iconic moments in music history, served as a cathartic release for both Collins and his listeners. By the time No Jacket Required came around, Collins had fully embraced the 1980s pop sound, infusing it with his own blend of soul and rock. The success of this album, which included massive hits like Sussudio and One More Night, proved that Collins could easily transition into mainstream pop while maintaining the integrity of his artistry. But he wasn't content to stay in any one genre. He constantly pushed the boundaries, exploring the realms of jazz, world music, and even film scoring, proving that his musical creativity knew no limits. This willingness to experiment was also evident in his collaborations with other artists. Collins frequently worked with stars from different genres, musicians like Eric Clapton, Robert Plant, and even jazz greats like Philip Bailey. These collaborations allowed him to push his own creative limits and keep his music fresh, while introducing his sound to new audiences. Phil Collins' time with Genesis was not just a career milestone. It was a key chapter in the formation of a legendary band. While Collins certainly rose to prominence as the frontman after Gabriel's departure, the journey of Genesis itself is filled with its own unique stories, struggles, and contributions to music. Genesis, in its earliest form, was a collective of musical prodigies, with each member playing a significant role in shaping the band's sound. While the band's progressive rock roots were firmly grounded in Gabriel's theatrical performances and cryptic lyrics, Collins brought a unique energy to the band that gradually transformed their sound. As the band's drummer and eventually its lead vocalist, Collins proved to be a powerful force in their creative direction. However, the journey was not always smooth. Tensions within the band were common, especially in the aftermath of Gabriel's departure. The challenge of replacing a charismatic frontman led to doubts about Genesis' future. The public's initial skepticism about Collins' ability to fill Gabriel's shoes was palpable, but his unique voice and emotional intensity soon won over critics and fans alike. As the 1980s approached, Genesis transitioned into more commercial music, aligning themselves with the emerging pop-rock sound. Collins' ability to combine sophisticated music structures with catchy hooks helped Genesis find massive commercial success. Yet Collins always felt conflicted about the band's shift towards pop, particularly as Genesis began to achieve mainstream success with albums like Invisible Touch and Genesis. Despite their success, Collins found himself pulled in different directions, yearning for more creative freedom. While Genesis became a globally recognized brand, Collins' solo work began to eclipse the band's success. By the time the band entered the 1990s, tensions between Collins and the other members, particularly guitarist Mike Rutherford, became too significant to ignore. Collins' decision to leave Genesis was not a surprise to those close to him, as he was eager to focus on his personal projects. However, his departure from Genesis marked the end of an era for both the band and Collins himself. Phil Collins' drumming skills were not only integral to his own career, but were also revolutionary for the entire music industry. Before Collins, drummers were often relegated to the background, serving merely as the timekeepers of the band. But Collins elevated the drum kit to a central instrument in rock music, making it just as expressive as the vocals or guitar. Phil's drumming style is instantly recognizable, fluid yet powerful, delicate yet explosive. His ability to combine rock precision with jazz spontaneity was a rare talent. Collins' sound was particularly distinctive in his snare drum technique and his signature drum fills, which often punctuated the music with a sense of urgency. It wasn't just the technical ability that made his drumming so compelling. It was the emotional depth he brought to every beat. One of Collins' most iconic moments as a drummer came in the 1981 song "In the Air Tonight," particularly during the legendary drum break. The dramatic, almost cinematic nature of the drum fill became a hallmark of his style. Over the years, it's become a defining moment in rock music history, universally praised for its raw power and emotional intensity. That drum fill alone solidified Collins' place in the Drumming Hall of Fame. Even though Collins is best known for his solo career and frontman status, his drumming is his true legacy. Many musicians, from rock drummers to jazz percussionists, have cited Collins as an influence, and his technique continues to inspire generations of drummers. Collins proved that drumming could be just as emotionally charged and musically significant as any other instrument in the band. Phil Collins' personal life has often been as turbulent as his professional career. While his rise to fame is legendary, his journey to personal happiness has been marked by personal trials, particularly in the realm of relationships. His marriages, divorces, and struggles with fame shaped much of his personal life. Collins' first marriage to Andrea Bertarelli in 1975 ended in divorce in 1980. The separation was tumultuous, leading to the creation of his most famous album, Face Value. The emotional heartache and the breakdown of his marriage bled into the album, resulting in some of the most raw and honest music of his career. Tracks like "In the Air Tonight" resonated with fans because they were so deeply personal, making Collins an artist that many people could connect with. Collins' second marriage to Jill Tavelman in 1984 was another chapter of his life that, while filled with joy, was short-lived. Their divorce in 1996 led to more public scrutiny. Collins' personal life was often overshadowed by his professional persona, with tabloids focusing on his personal struggles rather than his musical achievements. Despite these personal setbacks, Collins has shown resilience. His third marriage to Orion Sevi in 1999 seemed to offer him stability, but it too ended in divorce in 2006. These personal struggles, coupled with his fame, highlight the complicated nature of Collins' life. He is, after all, a man who achieved massive success while dealing with issues that many people face in private. Phil Collins' career was not just about his own success. He worked alongside some of the greatest musical talents of his generation. His collaborations with other legends like Eric Clapton, Robert Plant, and even the members of Genesis helped shape his musical identity and expand his artistic range. In the 1980s, Collins' collaborations were a defining feature of his career. His work with the legendary British guitarist Eric Clapton on Clapton's album August showcased a different side of Collins' musical range. While Clapton was known for his blues and rock influences, Collins brought his own brand of pop and soul to the project. The result was a fusion of musical styles that appealed to fans of both musicians. Collins also worked with Robert Plant, the iconic lead singer of Led Zeppelin. Collins' drumming style perfectly complemented Plant's raw energy, and the two musicians created a dynamic partnership that was both energetic and introspective. The work they did together is often hailed as one of the great musical collaborations of the 1980s. But perhaps Collins' most enduring collaboration was with his Genesis bandmates. While Genesis had its fair share of internal conflicts, the members, Collins, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Phil, were incredibly close during their most productive years. The band's collaborative efforts led to some of the most enduring albums in progressive rock history. Despite Collins' shift to a solo career, his work with Genesis continues to stand as a testament to their creative unity. Phil Collins' music was not only about personal emotion, it was also about social and political awareness. Although he wasn't known for overtly political lyrics, his music occasionally engaged with the social issues of the time, touching on themes of war, poverty, and social injustice. His 1989 album, But Seriously, was a direct commentary on global political issues. The album dealt with everything from homelessness to the environmental destruction that was increasingly prevalent in the media. The lead track, Another Day in Paradise, shone a spotlight on the plight of the homeless, using its haunting melody to raise awareness about social inequality. Collins wasn't afraid to speak out on global issues, even if it wasn't the most commercially viable stance. His philanthropy and his willingness to use his fame to raise awareness about various causes set him apart from many other celebrities of his time. He didn't just use his platform to entertain, he used it to influence change. As time has passed, the impact of Phil Collins on the music industry and popular culture has only grown stronger. While he may not be as prominently in the public eye today, his music continues to influence new generations of artists and fans alike. From the lingering impact of In the Air Tonight to the smooth rhythms of Sussudio, Collins' songs are a part of the soundtrack of modern life. His influence can be seen in the work of artists like Bruno Mars, John Legend, and others who have incorporated his signature drumming, emotional ballads, and catchy hooks into their own music. Phil Collins' cultural influence extends beyond music. His songs have been featured in film and television countless times, embedding themselves in the collective consciousness of audiences worldwide. His music continues to resonate with fans of all ages, a testament to his timeless appeal. Phil eventually made a comeback, performing despite his physical limitations. His 2017 Not Dead Yet tour was a defiant statement to the world. He wasn't done. Phil Collins' story isn't just about fame. It's about resilience, grit, and defying the odds. From a struggling teenager to a rock legend, his journey is proof that no matter how far down you are, you can rise. Phil Collins didn't just conquer the rockstar world. He rewrote what it means to be an artist. His music touched millions, his struggles humanized him, and his perseverance inspired generations. From unstable beginnings to global superstardom, Phil Collins stands as a symbol of relentless ambition. He was doubted, dismissed, and overlooked, but he rose, conquered, and became a legend. The homeless teen who conquered the world wasn't a myth. He was real, and his name was Phil Collins. Do you think Phil Collins stands as one who conquered the rockstar world? Drop off your comment on the comment section, and do well to also subscribe to this channel for more updates.